In this video, I will demonstrate what I think about as a 2000 plus rated chess player, so you can use this in your own games as well, and you can also get an idea of what it takes to play chess at this level. So I will be demonstrating a game against the lead chessbot. I will be playing pawn to d4 because I want to play the Pegasus system, the chess opening that I invented. Why am I playing this? It's really important when you play at this level that you are playing an opening that you know very well, especially once you start to get towards that 2000 rating. It's not really doable to play things you don't know because you are probably going to get in trouble quickly. So we are just going to go for the basic setup with the Pegasus system, the knight on d2, this structure, and then I want to go and push pawn to c4. So yeah, there's not much I can tell you about the opening in general at this level, except for the fact that you really have to know what you are going to do before you start the game. You should know most variations and what can happen in them. And I know that in this specific variation, when black plays this, they are having a small problem here with their b7 pawn that is unprotected. Also, the bishop can't go back. So I am going to play my queen to b3. Playing the queen to b3 has a double purpose, because first of all, I am thinking about targeting this weak pawn, and at the same time, my knight is no longer pinned since my queen has moved. Of course, black can do multiple things to defend this. Here my opponent is playing rook to b8. Usually they play the queen to c7 or the queen to b6. That's a bit of a better variation. And I already know this because, as I said, it's important to prepare your opening, so I know all of these possible lines and what I have to do against them. But they play the rook to b8. So I'm actually not 100% sure what to do against this specific move, because rook to b8 is not the best move in the position. And I think this is a good moment to learn from, because whenever you study an opening, even if you know it very well, right here I am at move 6, my opponent played rook to b8, and I don't know the specific theory of how we are going to continue in this position. So what I want to do is I want to develop my pieces and castle. That's pretty basic. That's why I'm going to go back to basic opening principles. So in general, what I like to do here is to play the bishop to d3, probably just castle, and then I'm going to see where I'm going to develop this bishop. Sometimes you want to play b3 later on, but to do that you have to move your queen as well. What I normally do is I play the bishop to d3 and then I challenge their bishop on f5, and if they take me, then I can recapture with the queen, and that's also a way to centralize your queen. The only problem is that the light squared bishop right now is over here on g4 and not on f5. So I am thinking that maybe I can push the pawn to h3 to force the bishop to do something. If they had moved, my idea was to play the bishop to d3. Most likely they were going to capture. I can capture with the queen, and this way I can actually go back to a position that I know from the Pegasus system. This is something that I have studied, so that was my idea. And of course, if they take me as they did during the game, that's probably even a little bit better, because this way they had basically to give up a bishop in exchange for a knight, and usually bishops are a little bit stronger. So black plays pawn to e5, and this is very confusing. Why they are doing this? Because basically the pawn is only protected once. I guess they are doing this because they want to open up the game a little bit and also free up their pieces. Because if you imagine the position, let's say here black plays pawn to e6, like this knight doesn't really have a good future. The bishop is also pretty passive. So probably, black would play something like this. But you can see that all of the black pieces are very passive in this position. But still, I think pawn to e5 is not such a good move. And what is very important at this level, this 2000 rated level and below, is that whenever your opponent played a move that you didn't expect, weaker players would think, oh no, maybe I missed something, maybe I made a mistake. But at this level, the thing that you have to think about is, okay, my opponent played something I didn't expect. So most likely it's my opponent who made a mistake and I have to try and punish them. And that is a better mindset, because you are looking for ways to punish your opponent instead of being afraid that you might have missed something. So I am just going to say I'm going to take this. It's a bit of a strange pawn structure, but I mean, I'm just up a pawn, and I am also, of course, attacking this knight. So I don't really know what black is going to try to do. So she plays the knight to c5, attacking my queen. So don't really have that many options. I have to move the queen. Then it's just a matter of where am I going to go. I have to think about what is the most flexible square, but I think probably queen to c2 is the most flexible. It protects this. It also protects this e4 square, and I know from studying this opening that in many variations, we do have the queen on c2. And now you can kind of see that the idea that black had probably was to develop the knights more towards the center and get a bit of a more active position, just in exchange for also opening up this pawn. But I'm not really sure if this was a good approach for black. They basically wanted to open up this square by making my pawn move to e5. My main thing that I am thinking about is that, well, in general, I would still like to develop my bishop and castle. But at the same time, since black is playing some strange moves, I also am looking for ways that I can potentially punish them. One of the things I wanted to do earlier, I talked about, is putting my bishop here on b2. But to do that, I have to move the b pawn. But right now, I do have the option of moving my b pawn here to b4 and winning a move, because then this knight would have to move, and also this is opening up for my bishop. So I am thinking, for example, here, pawn to b4, the knight has to move, and then at least I already have options to develop the bishop, but in that position I still have to think about the fact that this pawn is under attack, so maybe I play for this structure, and then later on in the future I can play the bishop here. So I think that's a pretty sound plan. Of course, depending on your time control, you probably have to spend a little bit more time, but I don't really see a problem with this plan, so that is why I am gonna go for this, and then just protecting. And sometimes I also play moves more quickly like this. If you are playing rapid games, you don't always have time to calculate every single variation. You mainly just have to calculate the most crucial lines. So we now have this. I can basically continue with the plan with the bishop to b2. But the thing I don't like about playing this move right now is that it doesn't really do anything. It just protects the pawn, which is already protected. And I like to always look for moves that come with a little bit of tempo, a little bit of pressure on my opponent. So that is why, for example, if I play this, black can pretty much do anything. But my other idea is, what if I play the bishop to d3? Then I am already threatening here to win material again. So basically, black is forced to respond to my move, and then later on I can still play this. So that is why I am gonna go with the bishop to d3, which is a move I have been wanting to play for a long time. And black ignores this. If they don't ignore it, well, they actually don't have a lot of choices. I'm gonna analyze this quickly. What I checked is that if they go here, it doesn't really seem that great. I was probably gonna take, and then castle, I think. And I think this was a line I could have played. If they take here with the queen, I actually get some counterattack as well on the enemy king. That was a quick variation that I calculated. Yeah, I didn't really calculate much else. Or I also thought quickly that maybe they could play f5, but I mean, I can always take en passant and then maybe reach this position. And that didn't really seem like a problem. But yeah, they are just ignoring me. So again, I'm not gonna think, oh no, this might be a trap. No, I just think probably black made a mistake, and I can try to win material. Of course, you always have to do a quick check, but I don't really see any problem. And then we already have this middle game where we are basically up 2 pawns. And now we have to still think, what am I gonna do? But in general, I also like playing some quick moves. I do have to be careful for the fact that this pawn is attacked twice, only defended once, so I'm just gonna quickly defend it. I'm not really worried about this. I can take with the bishop, or I can take with the pawn. The first instinct I have is to think about taking with the bishop, because I want to go for trades, because more trades means we are getting closer to the endgame, and an endgame where I'm up 2 pawns is one I am probably gonna win. But I don't like the fact that black can respond with pawn to c5. So if I take this and black plays pawn to c5, yeah, we get this awkward position with my pawns. I'm not really sure about this, so I'm just gonna capture like this, and I think this looks pretty fine. So black is really trying to go after the pawns. They are attacking here on b4. So I have to check if there is something I can do about this. Well, I think I can actually play c5 myself. Because again, the first instinct many players would have is, okay, I have to go and try and find a defensive move. But if you keep defending, your opponent is just going to keep attacking you as well. Here you should maybe play b5. But my other idea is, maybe I can do some kind of counterattack instead of just being passive. And I am thinking that if I play c5, while I am attacking the queen and also blocking basically both the knight and the bishop. And this is protected, and also the queen protects this sideways. So this is looking really good. This is an easy move to make in my opinion. Also, we have more control over this square, so potentially if I could get a knight to that square, that would be super interesting. But I don't really see a way to do it because, well, the knight would have to come from here. That means 1, 2, 3 moves, and I also have to remove this bishop, or 1, 2, 3 moves, but the knight can be captured and also my queen is in the way. So if that was not the case, let's say I had a knight on d4, I would probably go for this maneuver in this position. But I don't really see anything spectacular, so maybe it's time that we castle. We should just have 2 extra pawns, so we have to try and get into a winning endgame. The first thing I'm thinking about is how can I put some more pressure and also activate these rooks. This rook is actually doing nothing right now, so I think activating this one is a good idea. The d-file seems like a good option because the enemy queen is here as well, and if I ever remove my bishop, I always have opportunities for attack. So black is trying to fight on the open file. I don't really care because I have a rook here myself as well. Capturing this is possible because then we basically just have one less pair of rooks, and that means we are getting closer towards the endgame. So that doesn't look too bad. The other thing I was thinking about is maybe bishop c3, opening up this. But then probably they take, and if I take with the rook, I'm not putting my rook on this file, and if I take with the bishop, I put my bishop in the corner where it will be very passive. So I'm just gonna trade. And after this trade, I can still think about this move, bishop c3, that I wanted to play to open up this file. And I think black is getting desperate at this point, just sacrificing material. Again, I'm not afraid that this might be a trick. The main thing that I'm thinking about is probably black's idea is, okay, I'm going to try to create some counterplay with these 2 pawns, but it probably won't be enough. But we still have to keep fighting. So right now, black is trying to set up a counterattack, so I have to be careful because if I play slow moves and I don't do anything, I can already see that maybe b5, b4, the rook can go here, and all of a sudden with a couple of tempos, this pawn is going to get close to promotion. And since I don't have any pawns on this side of the board, I can't really stop this unless if I keep attacking them, but probably black will be able to defend because we have almost an equal amount of pieces, but since they are on light squares, I can't use this bishop. The other thing I'm thinking about is maybe I should just attack because I already have this queen, this bishop, the rook can potentially go in, and the knight can go in. So instead of worrying about those 2 pawns, maybe I should just use this as a moment to attack. Of course, we have to calculate what is the best variation. In general, the 2 moves that I look forward to the most is probably knight g5 because that's an immediate checkmate threat. But then my first thought is, what if they play the pawn to g6? I don't really have anything. Of course, pawn to h6 doesn't work. That's just a checkmate. Same with this. So maybe pawn to g6. And then I don't really see anything. Maybe I have to play e6 so I can open up the bishop. And then maybe get the queen in here as well. That could be a possibility. Also in the starting position, if I wanted to, I could actually play pawn to e6 immediately as well, probably. Because if they take this, well, it's not looking so great for black. I'm thinking if there's anything else. Rook d7 is always a good move, but I feel like it's the least interesting one among all of these options because it doesn't really do anything immediately. Maybe it's better to do this later. So I'm going to start with knight g5 because this is an immediate checkmate threat, and if they make a mistake, it's already game over. If they don't make a mistake, I can now think about what I am going to do. But I think still I have to now choose between the rook and pawn to e6. I'm not sure which is the best. I think they are both really good moves. The thing that I'm a bit worried about at first with pushing this is what if they play pawn to f6. But I think I can just keep pushing, and like the worst case scenario, we get something like this, but we still get a checkmate at the end. So I think it's interesting to push this. I mean, the rook can also be activated, but I don't really see a point. And they play pawn to f6, so I think we just have to push. They're moving the king, yeah, and this should be game over. Whenever I get a position like this, usually time is already low, so instead of doing some massive calculation, I'll probably just take this piece because it's free. And now I just have to find a checkmate. The funny thing is also, I didn't realize this earlier, but this pawn is actually pinned, so I don't even have to care about the fact that this knight is attacked, which means it's probably time to get in our extra piece so we can go for the checkmate. And And they are allowing us to go for the checkmate. Rook h7, king has to go here, queen takes g6, queen has to block. Here we just have a simple checkmate. So I hope that this was useful for you, that you now know what it looks like when a 2000 rated player plays a game. And as always, if you enjoyed this, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.